Imagine this. You are standing in the presence of God, surrounded by divine light, filled with power beyond human understanding. You have seen creation unfold, you know the mysteries of the universe, and yet you make a choice that will change your fate forever. The Watchers did exactly that. They abandoned their heavenly estate and descended to earth. But they did not come to protect or guide. They came to take, to rule, and to corrupt. They saw human women, found them beautiful, and took them as wives, defying divine order. Their offspring, the Nephilim, monstrous giants who dominated and devoured. But it did not stop there. These fallen angels shared forbidden knowledge, how to forge weapons, summon spirits, and manipulate creation itself. The world fell into chaos, violence, and destruction. Mankind, once innocent, now wields power that was never meant for them. The Watchers thought they were untouchable, that their rebellion had no consequences, but they were wrong. Judgment was coming, swift and absolute, no second chances, no mercy, just eternal chains and darkness. All right, let's dive into this. Welcome to Bible Stories, where we uncover the mysteries hidden in ancient scriptures. Today we are talking about one of the wildest stories in history. 200 angels, known as the Watchers, abandoned heaven. They came down to earth, took human wives, and fathered the Nephilim, giants, warriors, and destroyers. But it was not just about their children. The Watchers introduced forbidden knowledge, secrets of war, magic, and deception. They gave humanity tools of destruction, turning earth into a battlefield. God had set boundaries, but these angels crossed every single one. They thought they were rewriting destiny, but in reality they were sealing their fate. Their actions led to chaos, corruption, and divine judgment. And what happened next? It changed history forever. So stay with me. This is a story you do not want to miss. Before the Great Flood, the world was nothing like it is today. It was a place of chaos, ruled by giants and corrupted by forbidden knowledge. The Watchers had descended, taking human wives, and their children, the Nephilim, were terrorizing the earth. These creatures were not just strong, they were ruthless, consuming everything in their path. Meanwhile, their fathers, the fallen angels, taught humanity the secrets of war, sorcery, and deception. What was once a world of innocence had become a battlefield of destruction. God saw the bloodshed, the cries of the innocent, and the corruption of his creation. Would he allow this to continue, or was divine justice about to strike? The fate of both angels and mankind was now hanging in the balance. And what happened next? It was an act that would change the course of history forever. Mount Hermon, a place that would mark the greatest rebellion in angelic history. 200 Watchers, celestial beings created to guard humanity, gathered in the shadows of the mountain. Their leader, Shemaiah, stood before them, his voice unwavering. He knew the risk, the consequences, but desire had already won. Looking at his brethren, he declared, "We are bound together in this, no turning back." And so, an oath was made, an agreement to abandon their divine purpose and take what was never meant for them. Genesis chapter 6 describes the moment it began. The sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, and they took them as wives. These were no ordinary unions. The Watchers, beings of immense power and wisdom, had crossed a line that could never be undone. They were not seeking love. This was about control, dominion, and lust. They wanted to rule, to become kings among men. Their pride blinded them to what was coming. As they descended upon the earth, the world changed. At first it may have seemed like a golden age. Mighty beings walking among men, sharing knowledge, building empires. But beneath the surface, something much darker was taking root. The Nephilim were coming, and with them an era of violence, oppression, and destruction. The Book of Enoch gives us more details. It describes these angels standing together, swearing an oath, knowing full well that their actions would bring judgment. But arrogance whispered that they would never be punished. Who could stop us, they thought. But this was not just rebellion. It was a betrayal of the divine order, a direct challenge to God himself. And the heavens were watching. Judgment was coming, and when it did, it would shake the earth to its core, and then they were born. The Nephilim. Creatures unlike anything the world had ever seen. They were not ordinary children. They were giants, towering over men, unmatched in strength and consumed by an unquenchable hunger. They devoured everything in their path, livestock, crops, and even people. Nothing was safe, nothing was sacred. The Book of Enoch describes them as beings who consumed all the acquisitions of men. And when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind. This was not just a warning, it was a catastrophe unfolding before their eyes. Villages were destroyed, families torn apart. These were not protectors, they were destroyers. Ancient myths from around the world speak of giants. The titans of Greek mythology, the demigods of Sumerian texts, the mighty beings in Native American legends. All tell of creatures who were too powerful, too reckless, and too dangerous to exist. Coincidence? Or the echoes of a truth buried in time? But their strength was not the only danger. The Nephilim were not just warriors. They were rulers. They enslaved humanity, set themselves up as gods, demanding worship, demanding blood. Wherever they walked, suffering followed. And their fathers, the Watchers? They watched with pride. They saw their monstrous children take over the world, believing they had created a new divine order. But they had not built a kingdom. They had unleashed chaos. Humanity cried out. The earth groaned under the weight of bloodshed. It was clear this could not last. The Watchers thought they had won, that their legacy would endure forever. But the heavens were watching, and when God moves, he moves with power. This story is more than just ancient history. It is a warning. Power without control leads to destruction. When arrogance replaces wisdom, disaster is inevitable. The Nephilim believed they were unstoppable, but nothing can stand against divine justice. No empire, no kingdom, no creature, no angel can defy God and escape judgment. The Watchers did not just corrupt the world with their offspring. They handed humanity knowledge that was never meant to be revealed. What started as whispers in the dark soon became an unstoppable force, changing the course of history forever. Azazel, one of the fallen, led the charge. He taught men how to craft weapons, turning them from farmers into warriors. The first swords, the first shields, the first wars, all traced back to this forbidden wisdom. The Book of Enoch states, Azazel taught men to make swords, knives, shields, and breastplates, and made known to them the metals of the earth and the art of working them. It was not just weapons. The Watchers revealed the secrets of the heavens, astrology, sorcery, and divination. Men learned how to manipulate the natural order, summon spirits, and cast spells. For a while it must have seemed like power, like advancement. But power in the wrong hands always leads to destruction. What should have been wisdom became corruption. Tribes that once lived in peace turned on each other. Brother fought against brother. Kingdoms rose, built on blood and fear. The women? They were taught enchantments and beautification, ways to seduce and manipulate. They were no longer seen as sacred but as tools of control. The innocence of humanity was slipping away, replaced by greed, violence, and a thirst for power. The world was now unrecognizable. Instead of worshiping the Creator, people worshiped the Watchers and their Nephilim offspring. They built altars, sacrificed to these fallen beings, and abandoned the laws of God. And as the darkness spread, the cries of the innocent grew louder. This was not the world that was meant to be. It was a perversion of creation, a twisted version of what God had intended. The Watchers thought they were making men powerful. Instead, they were leading them to ruin. The heavens were not blind. The corruption could not go unchecked. Judgment was coming, and when it arrived, no one would be able to stop it. This is more than a story of the past. It is a warning. Knowledge is not always wisdom. Power is not always strength. The Watchers thought they were gifting humanity with enlightenment, but they were leading them into chaos. History repeats itself. When we seek power for the wrong reasons, when we use knowledge to dominate instead of uplift, we walk the same path as the Watchers, and that path leads only one way: destruction. The world was spiraling out of control. What started as a rebellion among the Watchers had turned into a full-scale disaster. The Nephilim ruled with iron fists, towering over men, devouring anything in sight. Cities burned, rivers ran red, and fear gripped the hearts of all who remain. The Book of Enoch paints a horrifying picture. The earth laid accusation against the lawless ones. Humanity was crying out. Mothers wept for their stolen children. Fathers stood helpless as their families were torn apart. The world that God had created was being swallowed by darkness. And above it all, the Watchers watched. They saw the chaos they had unleashed, yet they did nothing. They reveled in their power, believing they were beyond judgment. They had made themselves kings, gods among men. But their time was running out. Up in the heavens, the angels of the Lord looked down upon the devastation. Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel, the mighty archangels, stood in sorrow and righteous anger. They had seen war before, but this was something unnatural. It was more than a rebellion. It was an infection that had spread to the very soul of creation. The cries of the righteous reached the throne of God, and then the decision was made. The earth could not continue like this. The corruption had gone too far. The Watchers had sealed their fate. This was not just about punishing the wicked. It was about restoring balance. Justice was coming, swift and unstoppable. The Watchers thought they had rewritten the order of creation, but they had forgotten one thing. No one, not even angels, can escape the judgment of God. And when it arrived, it would come with a force that would shake the heavens and the earth alike. And then the judgment fell. The world had reached its breaking point. The Watchers had corrupted creation. The Nephilim had turned the earth into a blood-soaked battlefield, and humanity was drowning in chaos. The cries of the innocent had reached the heavens, and God had heard enough. The command was given. Gabriel, the mighty warrior of heaven, was sent to bring destruction upon the Nephilim. The giants, once feared and untouchable, were now turned against each other. They fought with unmatched fury, their strength tearing the very land apart. Cities crumbled, rivers overflowed with blood, and the earth shook under the weight of divine justice. The Book of Enoch describes this moment. Let them perish by their own hands, for they have defiled the earth with their wickedness. What once seemed invincible was now collapsing. The Nephilim, who had ruled with iron fists, were now nothing more than pawns in their own destruction. But what about the Watchers? Surely they would fight back, use their power to escape? They had once stood among the angels of God, radiating divine light, but now they were nothing more than condemned traitors, desperate and terrified. Michael, the archangel of war, descended upon them. The sentence had been written, and there would be no escape. Chains forged by divine power were wrapped around them. One by one they were bound, their cries echoing through the heavens. Jude 1:6 confirms this. And the angels who did not keep their positions of authority, but abandoned their proper dwelling, these he has kept in darkness, bound with everlasting chains for judgment. And Azazel, the one who had taught men the art of war, who had spread corruption like wildfire, his punishment was the most severe. The Book of Enoch states that he was cast into a deep pit, covered with jagged rocks, and left in utter darkness until the final judgment. The Watchers thought they had created a new order. Instead, they had sealed their fate. Their kingdom of rebellion was gone, their power stripped away, and their legacy, nothing more than ruin and regret. This was more than just a punishment, it was a warning. No one, no matter how powerful, can escape divine justice. Not angels, not kings, not warriors, and those who think they can, they always learn the hard way. Tartarus, a place darker than the deepest abyss, colder than the loneliest night. This was no ordinary prison. This was a pit of despair, a realm where even light refused to shine. The Watchers, once glorious and radiant, were now nothing more than chained exiles, locked away beneath creation itself. The Book of Enoch describes this horrifying place. And I saw a deep abyss with columns of heavenly fire, and among them I saw places of darkness. This was their new home. No more power, no more dominion, just endless suffering and regret. Bound in chains, they screamed into the void, but no one answered. They had once walked in the courts of heaven and stood before the throne of God, but they threw it all away. And for what? A fleeting moment of pleasure, a brief taste of rebellion. Azazel, the corrupter of men, had the worst fate of all. He was buried beneath jagged rocks, left to rot in darkness. No escape, no comfort, only the crushing weight of divine judgment. This was not just about punishment, it was about making an example. God was sending a message: defy him, and there is no coming back. Jude 1:6 confirms it. And the angels who did not keep their positions of authority but abandoned their proper dwelling, these he has kept in darkness, bound with everlasting chains for judgment on the great day. This was not a temporary sentence, this was forever. Some might ask, why so harsh? Why no mercy? But think about it. These beings had seen the face of God, witnessed his glory, and still chose to rebel. They were not deceived, they were not ignorant, they made a choice, fully aware of the consequences. Their fall is a warning not just for angels but for all of us. Power without humility leads to ruin. Defiance without wisdom leads to destruction. If even celestial beings could fall, what makes us think we are untouchable? The Watchers had eternity, but they threw it away. Now, they have nothing but darkness, and when the final judgment comes, their suffering will not end, it will only get worse. This is more than just a myth, it is a warning. Every choice has consequences. The Watchers thought they were above judgment, but they were wrong. No one can escape the reach of divine justice, not then, not now, not ever. Desperation. That is the only word to describe what the Watchers felt as they realized their fate was sealed. Once powerful and revered, now shackled in darkness, they had one last hope. Enoch, a man who had walked with God, a man who had been given knowledge beyond human understanding. If anyone could intercede on their behalf, it was him. The Book of Enoch tells us how they approached him, trembling, voices shaking. These beings, who once commanded legions, who had taught mankind the forbidden arts, were now reduced to begging a mere human for help. "Please," they pleaded, "write our petition to the Most High. Ask for mercy. Ask if we can be forgiven." Enoch, filled with dread but bound by duty, listened. He saw the terror in their eyes, the regret in their voices. They knew what was coming. They knew there was no escape, but still, they hoped. So, he took their request and ascended through the heavens. Through cosmic realms beyond imagination, he journeyed to the throne of God. The divine light surrounded him, the very essence of purity and justice. And then the voice of the Almighty thundered, "No." The answer was final. No mercy, no second chances. You were once in heaven, you saw my glory, and yet you chose rebellion. Jude 1:6 confirms this judgment. And the angels who did not keep their positions of authority but abandoned their proper dwelling, these he has kept in darkness, bound with everlasting chains for judgment. Their plea was rejected. Their punishment is eternal. Enoch returned with the answer they feared the most. As he delivered God's decree, the Watchers broke down. They wept, they mourned. They had defied the divine order, and now they would suffer the consequences forever. This story is not just about fallen angels. It is about choices. It is about consequences. The Watchers believed they could rewrite the laws of heaven, but no one is above judgment. Not then, not now, not ever. This is more than just a warning from ancient times. It is a truth that stands through eternity. Every decision we make has consequences. The Watchers thought they could escape justice, but they were wrong. And as history has proven, rebellion always leads to ruin. What path will you choose? Enoch stood before the throne of God, his heart pounding. He had traveled through realms beyond human comprehension, past the burning stars, through the celestial gates. Now he stood in the presence of the Almighty, holding the desperate plea of the fallen Watchers. They had sent him as their last hope, but as he looked upon the overwhelming radiance of God's glory, he knew the truth. There would be no mercy. The divine voice thundered, shaking the very fabric of existence. You were once among the holy, you knew my ways, you saw my light, and yet you chose darkness. The judgment was clear. These angels had not sinned in ignorance. They had not been deceived. They had stood in heaven, worshipped at the foot of the throne, and still turned away. Enoch trembled. He had carried their petition, but there was nothing more to say. The answer had been given. You shall have no peace, God declared. Your place is no longer in heaven nor on earth, but in the abyss until the final judgment. The gates of heaven remained closed to them forever. The Book of Enoch records this moment. And I went and spoke to them, and they were all afraid, and trembling seized them. They asked me to write out their petition, but their case had already been decided. Their fate was sealed. Enoch descended back to earth, carrying the weight of the decree. When he returned to the Watchers, he saw the fear in their eyes. These once mighty beings, who had defied the laws of heaven, who had ruled among men as gods, were now broken. They wept. They screamed. They knew there was no escape. Their cries echoed through the mountains, but heaven remained silent. This moment is a powerful reminder. No one is too powerful to fall. No one is beyond justice. The Watchers believed they could bend the rules, rewrite destiny, and avoid consequences. But the truth is unchanging. God's judgment is final. And when the final day comes, no one will be able to plead their case. Like the Watchers, those who reject the light will face the darkness they chose. This story is not just about fallen angels. It is about every soul that believes they can escape accountability. History repeats itself. Pride leads to downfall. Rebellion leads to ruin. The Watchers serve as a warning, a lesson written in the very fabric of time. The question is, will we listen, or will we make the same mistake? The Nephilim were gone. Their monstrous reign had ended in blood and fire. The Watchers, their once mighty fathers, were bound in chains, cast into the abyss. But their legacy? It did not disappear. It lingered in the shadows, whispering through time, taking a new form. The Book of Enoch tells us that the spirits of the Nephilim did not ascend to heaven, nor were they allowed to rest. Instead, they became something else, restless, malevolent, unseen yet powerful. They became what we now call demons. And the spirits of the giants shall afflict, oppress, destroy, attack, do battle, and work destruction on the earth, the text warns. These spirits roamed the world, feeding on fear, whispering temptations, seeking new vessels to corrupt. The sins of the Watchers did not die with them. Their influence stretched across generations. Ancient civilizations remembered their names. Babylon, Egypt, Greece, all carried echoes of these fallen beings, worshipping gods that bore a striking resemblance to the mighty Nephilim of old. Coincidence? Or proof that their corruption lived on? Even today we see their fingerprints in history. The thirst for power, the desire to control, the illusion that mankind can rise above divine authority. It is the same deception that led the Watchers to fall. They believed they could rewrite the rules. They believed they could be gods. But every kingdom built on rebellion falls. Every empire that defies divine order crumbles into dust. The flood was not just a reset. It was a message, a warning. The world had been given a second chance, but would humanity learn, or would history repeat itself? The Watchers are gone. The Nephilim are no more, but their spirits, their mistakes, their arrogance, those things still walk among us. The question is, will we recognize them? And more importantly, will we resist their influence? This is not just ancient history. It is a cycle, a pattern. Those who seek to defy God, who chase after forbidden knowledge, always meet the same fate. The Watchers thought they could rule forever. They were wrong, and those who follow in their footsteps will learn the same lesson. The only question is, how many warnings will it take before we finally listen? Enoch stood before the throne, surrounded by blinding light. He had come with a plea, a desperate request from the Watchers. But as the presence of God filled the heavens, he already knew the answer. These angels had seen the glory of heaven and lived in divine perfection, and yet they had turned away. There would be no mercy. The judgment was final. You were once in heaven, but you abandoned it. You defiled what was sacred. Now you shall have no peace. The Book of Enoch records this moment. Your names shall be blotted out from all generations, and you shall be bound until the great day of judgment. Enoch returned to earth, carrying the weight of that decree. When the Watchers heard the verdict, terror seized them. They screamed, they begged, but it was too late. Their cries were swallowed by the abyss. These beings, who had once ruled over men, were now nothing more than prisoners of their own downfall. This moment is more than just a tale of fallen angels. It is a warning. Power does not make one untouchable. Knowledge does not guarantee wisdom. Even the mighty can fall, and when they do, their fall is greater than any other. So what about us? Do we learn from their mistakes? Or do we repeat them? The Watchers bet everything, and they lost it all. They traded their place in heaven for a fleeting moment of power on earth. They thought they could defy the Creator, rewrite the rules, and escape judgment. But in the end, they were bound in chains, cast into darkness, and erased from the book of life. Their children, the Nephilim, were wiped from the earth. Their names, once feared, are now only echoes of a lost past. But their story, it still speaks. It warns of the cost of pride, the danger of unchecked power, and the fate of those who turn from the divine. The lesson is clear. No one is too great to fall. No one is beyond consequences. What happened to the Watchers is not just history, it is a warning. So, what about us? Do we humble ourselves before the truth, or do we, like them, believe we can outrun judgment? So what do you think? Should the Watchers have been given another chance, or was their punishment just? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's talk about it. If you found this story fascinating, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. There is so much more to uncover: hidden truths, forgotten history, and deep biblical mystery. Stay strong, seek wisdom, and remember, some warnings are given for a reason. Do not ignore them.